1941, the world at war. December 7, 1941. A quiet Sunday morning in Hawaii. Sailors sleep aboard their ships in Pearl Harbor. Families prepare for church. Then, without warning, the sky fills with Japanese aircraft. Bombs rain down on Battleship Row. America is at war. This is 1941, the year the war becomes truly global. The year begins with Britain still standing alone against Nazi-dominated Europe. The Blitz continues through the winter and spring. German bombers devastate British cities night after night. But the British people endure. They will not break. In North Africa, a new commander arrives to rescue the floundering Italian campaign. General Erwin Rommel lands in Libya in February with a small German force, the Afrika Korps. Within weeks, he transforms the war in the desert. Rommel attacks before his superiors expect, before the British are ready. His panzers sweep across the Libyan desert, recapturing all the territory the British had won from the Italians. Only the fortress of Tobruk holds out, besieged but defiant. Australian troops defend it with legendary stubbornness. Rommel, the Desert Fox, becomes a legend on both sides. His bold tactics, his personal courage, his chivalry toward prisoners make him unusual among German commanders. But his supply lines stretch thin, and in the desert, logistics matter more than daring. In the Balkans, Hitler's attention turns south. Mussolini's invasion of Greece has stalled. Greek soldiers have driven the Italians back into Albania. It is humiliating. Hitler must rescue his ally. In April, Germany invades Yugoslavia and Greece simultaneously. Yugoslavia falls in 11 days, despite fierce resistance. Greece follows, despite British troops sent to aid the Greeks. The swastika flies over the Acropolis. Crete is next. On May 20th, German paratroopers descend on the island in the largest airborne assault in history. The battle for Crete is ferocious. Thousands of paratroopers die in the first hours, shot down as they float to Earth. But they hold on long enough for reinforcements to land. After 10 days of savage fighting, the British evacuate Crete. It is another defeat. But the cost to Germany's elite airborne forces is so severe that Hitler never again uses them for a major assault. Crete was the grave of the German paratroopers, the saying goes. The Battle of the Atlantic reaches crisis point. German U-boats, now operating from French ports, range far into the Atlantic. They hunt in wolf packs, overwhelming convoy escorts. In April alone, U-boats sink nearly 700,000 tons of British shipping. Britain is being strangled. Half the nation's food comes by sea. Most of its oil, raw materials, and weapons cross the Atlantic. If the U-boats cut these lifelines, Britain must surrender or starve. Churchill calls it the Battle of the Atlantic. It will last the entire war. New tactics, new technologies, new ships will eventually turn the tide. But in 1941, the submarines are winning. Across the Atlantic, America edges closer to war. In March, Congress passes the Lend-Lease Act. America will supply Britain and its allies with weapons, food, and supplies, on credit. We must be the arsenal of democracy, Roosevelt declares. American ships begin escorting convoys partway across the Atlantic. In September, a U-boat fires torpedoes at the destroyer USS Greer. In October, the USS Kearney is torpedoed and 11 sailors die. In November, the USS Reuben James is sunk with the loss of 115 men. America and Germany are fighting an undeclared naval war. But it is in the east that the war transforms utterly. At dawn on June 22, 1941, 3 million German soldiers pour across the Soviet border. Operation Barbarossa, the largest military operation in history, has begun. Hitler has turned on his ally Stalin, despite the non-aggression pact they signed just 2 years earlier. The scale is almost incomprehensible. The front stretches from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea, nearly 2,000 miles. 3 German army groups advance simultaneously. Army Group North toward Leningrad. Army Group Center toward Moscow. Army group south toward Kiev and the Ukraine. Stalin is caught completely by surprise. He had received warnings from multiple sources, from British intelligence, from his own spies, from German defectors. He dismissed them all as provocations designed to destroy the Nazi-Soviet pact. The first days are catastrophic for the Soviets. The Luftwaffe destroys much of the Soviet Air Force on the ground, over 1,800 aircraft on the first day alone. German panzers encircle huge Soviet formations. Entire armies are surrounded and captured. The numbers are staggering. In the battles of encirclement at Minsk, Smolensk, and Kiev, the Germans capture over 2 million Soviet soldiers in just the first 3 months. It seems that nothing can stop the Wehrmacht. By September, Army Group North has surrounded Leningrad. The siege will last 872 days. Over 1 million civilians will die of starvation, cold, and German bombardment. It will be the deadliest siege in human history. Army Group Center reaches the outskirts of Moscow by early December. German soldiers can see the spires of the Kremlin through their binoculars. Victory seems within reach. The Soviet Union appears to be collapsing. But the Soviets do not collapse. Stalin refuses to leave Moscow. Soviet troops from Siberia, fresh divisions trained for winter warfare, are rushed to defend the capital. And then the Russian winter arrives. German troops are not prepared for winter. They have summer uniforms, inadequate shelter, equipment that freezes in temperatures of -30 degrees. Frostbite claims more casualties than enemy action. Tanks will not start. Weapons jam. The advance grinds to a halt. On December 5, the Soviets counterattack before Moscow. Fresh Siberian divisions strike exhausted German forces. For the first time in the war, the Wehrmacht is driven back. The myth of German invincibility dies in the snow before Moscow. Hitler takes personal command of the army and forbids retreat. German soldiers must stand and die where they are. Somehow, the front holds. But the dream of quick victory is over. Germany now faces a long war of attrition against an enemy with vast reserves of men and resources. Behind the German lines, a different kind of war is being waged, a war of annihilation against Jews, communists, and Slavic peoples. The Einsatzgruppen, mobile killing squads, follow the Wehrmacht into Soviet territory. Their mission, mass murder. At Babi Yar, outside Kiev, the Einsatzgruppen shoot 33,771 Jews in just 2 days. The victims are marched to a ravine, forced to strip, and shot. Layer upon layer of bodies fill the gorge. It is the largest single massacre of the Holocaust, but it is not unique. Similar scenes occur across the occupied Soviet territories. The Holocaust is accelerating. The death camps are being planned. Auschwitz, Treblinka, Sobibor, the machinery of industrial murder is being assembled. By the war's end, 6 million Jews will be dead. In the Pacific, Japan's military rulers watch the war in Europe with calculation. America has frozen Japanese assets and imposed an oil embargo. Japan must either back down from its imperial ambitions or seize the resources of Southeast Asia. The militarists choose war. Admiral Yamamoto plans a devastating blow against the American Pacific Fleet. If the fleet can be destroyed at anchor, Japan will have time to conquer Southeast Asia and build an impregnable defensive perimeter. America, faced with a long and costly war, might negotiate peace. On the morning of December 7, 1941, Japanese aircraft approach Hawaii undetected. At 7:48 a.m., the first bombs fall on Pearl Harbor. Wave after wave of Japanese planes attack the anchored fleet. The destruction is immense. 8 battleships are damaged or destroyed. Nearly 200 aircraft are destroyed on the ground. 2,403 Americans die. It is the most devastating attack on American soil since the British burned Washington in 1814. But the attack is not the complete success Japan hoped for. The American aircraft carriers are at sea and escape destruction. The submarine base and fuel storage facilities are undamaged. And most importantly, the attack unifies America as nothing else could have. December 7, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. President Roosevelt addresses Congress the next day. Within an hour, America is at war with Japan. 3 days later, Germany and Italy declare war on America, honoring their alliance with Japan. Churchill, hearing the news of Pearl Harbor, feels relief wash over him. "So we had won after all," he later writes. Hitler's fate was sealed. Mussolini's fate was sealed. As for the Japanese, they would be ground to powder. Japan moves with stunning speed. On the same day as Pearl Harbor, Japanese forces attack the Philippines, Guam, Wake Island, Hong Kong, and Malaya. Singapore, the great British bastion in Southeast Asia, is threatened. In the Philippines, General Douglas MacArthur's Air Force is caught on the ground and destroyed 9 hours after Pearl Harbor, despite warnings. Japanese troops land in northern Luzon. American and Filipino forces retreat toward the Bataan Peninsula. The Philippines will hold out until May, but the outcome is inevitable. The year ends with the Axis at the height of its power. Germany controls Europe from the English Channel to the gates of Moscow. Japan is sweeping through Southeast Asia. Britain is besieged. The Soviet Union fights for survival. America is mobilizing but not yet ready. Yet the seeds of Axis defeat have been planted. Germany has made the fatal mistake of invading the Soviet Union. Japan has awakened the sleeping giant of American industrial power. Britain has survived its darkest hour. The tide has not yet turned. 1942 will bring more disasters: the fall of Singapore, the death march on Bataan, the German summer offensive in Russia, the U-boat war at its peak. The war's bloodiest years lie ahead. But the correlation of forces has shifted. The Axis powers have made too many enemies. The combined resources of America, the British Empire, and the Soviet Union vastly exceed